I'm sure the viewers have noticed at this point that you brought a few Star Wars toys with you. And they all happen to be the same Star Wars toy.
Yeah.
What's the deal with all these Walrus Mans? Because I refuse to not use the Kenner name.
Okay, so Walrus Man, a.k.a. Ponda Baba.
Mike is the person you want to not pay his storage bill and you get his stuff on Storage Wars.
Oh, God. Yeah, my stuff is very organized. So I will tell what it is. I will not tell where it is, however.
Pegwarmers is the code name for toys and collectibles with high supply and low demand. Join Kevin and his team of collector commandos as they discuss popular and not so popular retro and current toy brands.
All right, welcome to Pegwarmers. I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike Breaux.
And we are here to talk about toys.
It's going to be a great show. This is the first time I think we're doing a show together. Like, we've done one at RetroCon.
Yes, this is our first long form video together. We did a panel at RetroCon one year.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. So I collect predominantly, I would say my key toy lines would be G.I. Joe, He-Man, and probably Power Rangers.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be primarily Transformers, G.I. Joe, a little bit of the newer He-Man stuff, and a few online specialty toys, particularly like Marauders, Gun Runners, and things like that. I love those lines. And I say I'm not a Hot Wheels collector, but I'm a Hot Wheels collector of like retro stuff.
He's into any of the cars based on cars from the past, like A-Team vans and DeLoreans and stuff.
Especially any Batmobiles. I'm not a huge Batman per se fan, other than like the 1989 movie and the animated cartoon, but you have a Batmobile, I'm probably going to end up buying it.
We have to introduce you to Kieran. He has a whole Batmobile collection. We're going to start off with a kind of a news segment here and stuff that's coming up. There's a ton of toy pop culture media coming out in the near future. We have the Masters of the Universe Revelation show coming out on Netflix.
Can I just say that I really loved that first trailer that had Bonnie Tyler's song in it?
Yes.
Holding out for, I'm like, wait a second, is that? And I'm listening to it, and all of a sudden, and I'm screaming at my screen like, what the? Oh my God! And then the second trailer hit, and you're like, wait a second, is that who I think it is with red eye? Oh my God, it's Faker!
They're putting so many characters into this. It's really cool. I'm glad that they're giving a lot of characters that never made it into the first show some screen time. So we have Clamp Champ and Scareglow and a blue Faker.
Yeah.
Like, not just another He-Man with glowing eyes. Like, it's really neat that they're putting all these characters into it.
And let's just say for what it is, Orko looks like he's going to actually be able to do magic this time. Hello?
That would be nice.
Yeah, like he's not a bumbling little floating blob. He can actually kick, can I say the bad word? Kick ass? Like, seriously. Normally I'm more PG-13, folks. I'm just letting you know.
I'm also really excited for Mark Hamill to do Skeletor. I mean, he's the ultimate bad guy, like over-the-top bad guy voice. So, I'm excited to see how that goes. I know there's a lot of people that are concerned about where the story's going and different elements of that. I think you got to give it a chance. You got to see where they're going with it.
Exactly.
There's obviously new agendas and things like that, and they're trying to move the story forward, so they have to change some elements.
Right. I really love, and we've talked about this before, is the fact that it has the look and feel of the original cartoon to a point, but it also has that 2000X feel, which was an amazing cartoon in itself. It got cut too short. They should have had at least another 5 episodes of that.
Yeah, this almost looks like a merge of those two shows.
Exactly.
Because it has sort of the classic character designs for the most part, but it has the detailed animation, the shading and things like that, without the anime spiky hair kind of thing. So it looks like a really nice meld of those two. And I'm hoping the story combines the two a little bit, because there's a lot of really good plot points
from both
2000X.
Yeah, and from the original.
And the original as well.
You know, now granted, only 5 episodes of the original really moved things forward per se, but
that was the part that cracked you up the most when this first started getting talked about. Kevin Smith kept saying, it's like it took place right after the last episode of the original one, and it's like the other series you could watch in any order. It never made a speck of difference.
Right.
Those 120 episodes or whatever could be watched in any order, because it's a standard kids cartoon where at the end everything goes back to exactly the way it was. So there really are very few episodes where there was any character development.
And every episode you did hear, I have the power, and
So I'm really excited to see something that harkens back to that, but actually has an overarching storyline that's gonna do something different with the characters, and not just have He-Man fight Skeletor for the exact same time, and at the end, everybody's still alive and everybody's still okay, and nothing's changed.
Exactly. And what's really great, too, is it's only 5 episodes. It's first part 1 of season 1. You could sit there and watch it in an afternoon if they're like half-hour, 45-minute episodes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have a hard time not watching it at one time.
It's going to be like watching an animated movie.
Yeah, it's just going to, all right.
Boom, boom.
This is what I'm doing today.
Well, there's also the G.I. Joe movie coming out.
Right.
And, I loved the first 2, the second one more, because I think the second one was more true.
Of the original.
And if you can watch the extended cut of the second one, it's much better film. Short of you need to see the assassination at the beginning of the first one, of the original version of that film. I think you still need that. But this one, it feels like it's more of a martial arts film than an actual G.I. Joe film. How they're going to tie it all together will be interesting to watch. And the fact that we're getting Scarlet on top of the Baroness and everything, how much are we going to see of Cobra in this too?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how much of the G.I. Joe and Cobra teams we see with those 2 characters, having Baroness and Scarlet in it.
Right.
Are they going to recruit Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow by the end of this movie? Or are they just going to kind of tangentially touch on their storylines? I think that's going to be interesting. There's a lot of people worked up that they've changed some key elements in Snake Eyes' background. But because he's a masked character, predominantly, like, yes, most people that read the comic know he's blonde hair, blue-eyed. But if you talk to an average 80s kid, they have no idea what he looks like.
Exactly.
They watched the cartoon, he never said anything, he never took off the mask. And even if you read 90% of that comic book line, you still wouldn't see his face. There's like 4 issues where you find out who he is.
Yeah.
So to change what he looks like and to have him not necessarily meet Snake Eyes or meet Storm Shadow in a war situation, I think it's okay.
Well, it's really cool because this was the character in the original toy line where they need to save money on the toy line. No paint app. It's just an all-black plastic character. And it's a character with a full mask. Not even the Cobras, other than Cobra Commander, didn't have a full mask. They had their faces, their eyes were shown. You could be anybody behind that mask. And that was great because any kid can be Snake Eyes.
Right. That's why Master Chief and characters like that relate to everybody. You don't see their face. It can be anybody.
My gut reaction, my gut feeling is because it's a helmet, who we see as Snake Eyes in this film may not be the Snake Eyes on the G.I. Joe team. That's my kind of gut
I think
theory.
You're going out on a limb there on that one.
I don't know. I think maybe he trains him.
Ooh.
I think he trains the character that's going to end up being Snake Eyes on the G.I. Joe team, but not necessarily the G.I. Joe. We're going to see maybe a character in this film that becomes that we're not seeing.
Interesting. That's a really interesting theory.
Because let's think about the fact that Larry Hama's really signed off on this film, and he believes it true to the character somehow. Now, what we're seeing, great character. I love that, this actor is being Snake Eyes. He is Snake Eyes, but the name Snake Eyes could be carried over to someone else. It's a mantle name.
Which Larry Hama has done in the comic.
Exactly.
In the current storyline in the G.I. Joe comics, the original Snake Eyes has died.
Right.
And
spoiler alert. Spoiler.
If you're not reading the comics, you're not going to start now, probably.
Right.
But he has died. There's a guy on the team wearing his uniform.
Exactly.
And there is a girl with his memories on
from the
team.
Brainwave scanner.
Right. So you have a person that can speak and tell Snake Eyes' story now. You have a guy impersonating Snake Eyes. I think the creepiest part of that whole thing is that Scarlet has to pretend her boyfriend is this guy that's half her age that's on the Joe team wearing Snake Eyes' outfit.
No. I don't think we're getting anything like that in the movies necessarily, but I think we could see something where this character that Snake Eyes now is maybe training. He becomes the blind master or the hard master or something and trains another person on the G.I. Joe team to become Snake Eyes in some form or fashion.
Maybe. I feel like that's going to complicate the whole story, though.
I don't know. It's just my gut feeling because it doesn't feel like Storm Shadow is taking in an outsider. It's like taking in somebody that's already part of the family within the trailers we're seeing.
Yeah, I do get that part of it, but I think what the turning point with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow always comes down to is that Storm Shadow is not favored. He feels like he's the rightful heir to the higher up roles in the clan,
right? And
Snake Eyes kind of outdoes him. So whether it's a white boy or whether it's a guy that like is a low level mobster in there,
that's not
fish boy or whatever. Either way, he's still going to be insulted. If your uncles run this business and some schlub gets to be ahead of you, you're going to be pissed no matter what. So I don't know if it has to be the exact same story. And I think that that the Marvel movies, like with Iron Man, have shown, you've got to update the conflicts that these things are based around. Right. So you can't have these guys fight in Vietnam together. It just doesn't work.
Oh, not right now. No, not anymore.
It just doesn't work. They're 70 years old. So it makes sense to
probably 70 years old guys, but
it just makes sense to get away from that. Especially also, I think G.I. Joe is trying to distance itself more and more from U.S. military and just being like its own
tactical force of some kind.
Yeah. So I think them getting away from especially unpopular wars that America was involved in is probably a smart thing on Hasbro's part.
Right.
The next thing I want to talk about, connected to news but isn't necessarily news, is new to the collection. Oh. And so I recently picked up the MOTU Origins Castle Grayskull. So this is the fourth, I guess, Castle Grayskull that Mattel has made over the years. We had the original one.
Yep.
We had the 2000X.
Yep.
We've had the MOTU Classics.
Yep.
And now we have the MOTU Origins one.
Which is basically a re-update of the original.
Right. It has a lot of the same features. Some things that were cardboard in the original are now plastic. Some things that were in the original one got dropped.
Right.
Like the suit of armor. But it looks really good. It's a nice sculpt. I think it's a little more kid-friendly. The original castle has a very spooky, scary kind of look to it, which I think really spoke to kids in the 80s. But I also think that they were trying to connect that more with the bad guys.
Right.
It's kind of unclear because the flag could go good guy or bad guy, but the box art shows Skeletor on it. A lot of the merchandising, early photos show the bad guys. So I feel like somebody, either everybody just looked at that sculpt and was like, oh, this has got to be the bad guy base, or someone at Mattel that doesn't even remember that this happened was thinking it was a bad guy thing. But this new one is a little bit more friendly, a little bit more Filmation maybe look to it.
And it does come with a new Sorceress figure too.
It does have a new Sorceress, which I'm excited to check out.
Yeah.
She's in the white outfit from the Pyramid of Darkness mini comic.
Yep.
Which is probably smart to pack that one with it because they'll do a regular
Sorceress on card at some point. Yeah. They've already now got the mold. They just have to repaint it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the white one would be less interesting on the pegs in the store. Like kids will jump at an orange and blue toy faster than an all-white one. It jumps off the shelf more.
Now, I remember with the original one that it would fold up and it had a handle kind of built into it. Does this one still have that handle?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think every Castle Grayskull has had the handle. I don't know if the 2000X one for sure had it or not.
I think it... I don't know, because it folded really flat.
Yeah, that one is really flat.
Yeah, I have that one, so...
I think that one's the least interesting.
It's all right.
It's okay. They put a lot of effort into the
sound
chip features. Yeah, there were sound effects, and only the good guys could open the drawbridge.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of the Thundercats Lynx system that they did in 2011.
Yeah, that's right. I wonder if they was that. No, that was a different company, but
different company. But yeah, it was just we gotta put video games into toys, so everything came with electronic chips and sounds.
And you know who I blame for that? Comchip. Comchips from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Well, now for me, I ended up getting just a couple months back, and I had paid for it a year and a half ago. I ended up getting the Unicron.
Oh man,
I love that thing. Like that showed up at the door, and I'm like, oh no, it was so big. I can't have it come home. I got to go to the FedEx and pick it up. Went to go pick it up, and I had to put it on a cart to take it out to the car. It was so big.
I was tempted to get that, and I don't really collect a lot of Transformers stuff. I have a handful, but it's just so cool, and it's the guy from the movie. Like, how do you not want the big bad guy?
He is like twice the size of the original Unicron that came out like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Which was not even quite a leader class at that point. Right. And it's phenomenal. It took me about 3 hours to transform it from the planet mode after taking about half an hour to put it together.
Which way is it in the box?
It's in the planet mode in the box.
Okay, because that is more compact.
Yeah, it's more compact, but it has like all the rings and everything on the sides, and you have to pull all that out, and then you attach those, and it has the base that it sits on that's just huge. Just the base alone is huge, and it fits really well, but then you have to transform it. And I'll be honest, the booklet that comes with full color pages, it's really great.
Oh, wow.
I had to go to YouTube just to look at some of this ways to pull the panels off safely.
Yeah.
That was the only thing. But once he's in robot mode, I just left him there. And
I think that's the way to display him. I can't imagine having him in planet mode.
But the fact that he comes with his head that can come off, so it looks like when he dies in the film, it's just a head.
Right.
You can have 2 different facial expressions on it. The eyes move.
Do you get 2 full heads, or it's just a
one full head and then a
damaged?
faceplate that comes off? One that looks more cartoon accurate, one that looks a little more damaged, one with the chin hair, one without the chin hair. But when you take the face off, it looks like a skeleton of his head. And there's even a button in the back where you can make the 2 eyes move back and forth.
Oh, wow.
And when the faceplate is on, it looks like his eyes are going back. It's actually really cool. It even comes with a replica of one of the Autobot shuttles, very tiny. And it even has, they say, to scale, a figure of Hot Rod and Galvatron with it.
Okay.
And they are literally like the size of a little tiny rivet on this table here. It is tiny.
Those are the parts you're going to lose in the carpet.
You know what I did? They come with that stand that holds the ship itself. There's a place to put those as well.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. And side note, even there's a figure that came out, a Centurion, something or other that was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, and it was this figure repaint, but it came with a bunch of accessories as well to go with other Transformers from this particular line. Backpack for Prime to fly, a gun for Trailbreaker with his little satellite dish and whatnot and things like that. But it also comes with a 2-scale Optimus Prime for this Unicron as well.
Even though they never met.
Exactly. Well, they met in a comic book.
Okay.
You know, they met in a comic book briefly before he died again there too. But Prime's always dying. Why does he do that? He just wants to kill our hearts.
I think once they found that gimmick was impactful, it was just like, well, let's just keep doing it.
Yeah, and bring him back and kill him again, and bring him back and kill him again. But no, this Unicron is phenomenal. It is at least a head and a half taller than a lot of the Titan Masters as well.
Okay.
The Titan, it's just crazy. I have this great picture of him on the shelf with Fort Max, Metroplex, Omega Supreme all behind him, and they're like dwarfed by this Transformer.
That's crazy.
It's
It's really insane though to think that like all the toys we wanted as kids, they're making now.
Right.
Like this Jabba sail barge, this Unicron, the better quality, like the better detailed Masters of the Universe and Thundercats and Silverhawks that we're getting now are like
exactly. Well, with the Hasbro, they did HasLab, they did you said the sail barge, they did Unicron, they did the Sentinel, which is like 3 feet tall. They're doing they did, and it's already been funded, the Mandalorian ship, the Razor Crest, which I have that showing up. Don't tell my wife. So yeah, it's I can't wait. Like, and that's a ship that's not even something retro.
Right.
It's a brand new.
We're not going to get this on shelf space. If you guys want us to make it, we'll do it, but you got to fund it.
You got to fund it up front more than anything else. Same thing with Silverhawk. Same thing with Thundercats. Same thing with those Super 7 turtles.
Yep.
Like, it's crazy.
If you guys want to pay for the molds, we'll make these toys for you.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have the molds, and they can crank out more stuff if they want. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean they seem to be Super 7 likes to do like glow in the dark variants of a lot of these things, like about one figure a wave. Something that makes sense. They'll do they did a glow in the dark Baxter Stockman and a Mumra,
right?
Things like that.
Oh, I got to get that Mumra. I haven't got him yet.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, because he's already out.
Yeah.
Big Bad Toy Store.
Probably. Has
Yeah, I got to look for that. So yeah, that's been recently added, and a few pickups here and there. The new Batmobile, actually, from the new movie, that's not even out yet. It's hitting shelves now, and I picked up one, so it looks cool.
Okay.
You know, I kind of want the Batmobile from Batwoman myself too, but that's a whole other discussion. So, I'm still trying to fight the urge of getting Jurassic Park toys.
That's a tough one. I see them and I think these are the Jurassic Park toys we actually wanted back
I know.
then. They look like the characters.
I've got a handful of them. I got the Dennis Nedry last year that came in the Barbasol can.
Right.
I was actually able to get one of those. But now he's out in a set where he's in the yellow trench coat with the Dilophosaurus and the Jeep. Right from that scene, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I look at that every time I'm in a big box store. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That is a great set. And then they're doing the 6-inch figures. I'm trying not to get the 6-inch because I think the 4-inch lends more towards the Jurassic Park line.
Because you want the vehicles and you want the dinosaurs to be big compared to
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now I'm just waiting for a good Chris Pratt figure because they didn't come out with one yet. They've come out with them, but not a good one yet.
Oh, in that scale? Because I have some like 4-inch Chris Pratts from when the movie first came out.
Right, and they look okay, but they don't have I like it's better likeness.
Not quite, yeah.
Now that what they've done with Dennis Nedry, what they've done with the other characters with Hammond and everything, they look spot on.
Yeah.
So they can do a better one. in that smaller scale.
That's true. I'm sure the viewers have noticed at this point that you brought a few Star Wars toys with you. And they all happen to be the same Star Wars toy.
Yeah.
What's the deal with all these Walrus Mans? Because I refuse to not use the Kenner name.
Okay, so Walrus Man, a.k.a. Ponda Baba. So, long story short, my career in toys, I actually had a career in toys and still kind of do, started when I worked at KB Toys way back when I was a teenager, 11th grade, 1991. So back then I was like, okay, I'm going to try and work in toys and whatnot. And I worked at KB Toys, Toys R Us. I ended up moving from Louisiana to Massachusetts and ended up working at FAO Schwartz in Boston. And I made a great group of friends there, even met my future wife there. I met one of my best friends, Fred, there, and a few other people. And while working at that store, it ended up being that I couldn't date a coworker and work in the same store. So it ended up working out after me being there 2 years, moving me to a different store nearby. But I was leaving. My last day was coming up. On my last day at FAO Schwartz, Boston, I go to my locker, I check in and everything, and I'm working. And at one point, I have to go back to my locker to get something out of there. And I see on the locker a wrapped action figure. I'm like, oh, somebody bought me a wrapped action. And I went up. It's for my friend Fred. I'm like, oh, here you go. We'll miss you. We'll work together still, but we'll see you working in the store. I'm like, oh, cool. I open up. It's Ponda Baba from Power of the Force, because that's what we were selling at the time. This was 99 or so.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, cool. I got a Ponda Baba. I already had one, but I'll keep one sealed or whatnot. I go back out on the floor and I'm selling. I come back, it's lunchtime. I'm like, oh, there's 3 more things on my, I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I open up and I'm like, oh, from Kimmy, from Jen, I'm like, okay, cool. Open them up. It's Ponda Baba. Okay, cool. Open up the third one. Ponda Baba. Like, okay. I started to see where this is going. I open up the fourth one. Ponda Baba. Like, okay. So I see what you guys are doing here. So various times throughout the day, I'm going through and I ended up with 3, 5, 12, like 40 at some point. Ponda Babas on my locker door. I'm like, why? Come to find out, my friend Fred, supervisor of the Action City department, was selling them at a dirt cheap price to everybody who wanted to buy me a Ponda Baba for my last day. And they were using the expensive FAO gift wrap to wrap them all up. I'm like, this is beautiful. Even one of them had a signature on it from Ponda Baba, the actor who played Ponda Baba. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I'm keeping that one. I wish I had that here to show.
It's amazing to think of how many case packs of this toy line they were moving to have that many Ponda Babas in stock.
Well, it was literally a peg warmer in the store. Like, we had, all the Power of the Force figures at the time. And there's a handful, like the Slave Leia and things that would go out immediately out the door. But Ponda Baba, I think Luke, there was a Stormtrooper, there was the Boba Fett with all the rocket gear, like the deluxe one and all that. They just would not sell. So at some point, somebody decided when it was going to be my last day, we're going to clear out some figures. We're going to make it all Ponda.
I think those deluxe figures were stinkers from that line until they went movie accurate with them.
Yeah, like exactly.
There were the deluxe ones where it was like a Luke on speeder bike. Those were great.
Yeah.
Because I was buying this line as a too old to play with toys kid, basically. Like, I was in late elementary school. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really play with them. I would get them and like look at them and then put them away, like put them in a bag or whatever.
Well, I mean, look at him. He's buff too.
Yeah,
they made them a little too buff. Like, really, come on.
At this point, they're already starting to tone it down. The first wave was just insane. Luke is...
Well, Luke's got the chest like, I need a bra to wear with this thing. I'm like, come on. No.
He looks like, they clearly took the original painting for the movie poster as the inspiration for that. But they made those guys so ridiculously buff.
It was beautiful.
So are all of these the ones you got, or did you add to that collection afterwards?
These are all ones that I got. I ended up buying another 20 or so just to clear them out. At one point before I moved away from Massachusetts, at like 50 cents a piece. He just marked them down. So, I can sit here, and I'll even do it right here. So we're going to have a little fun. This is just a few more. So when we talk peg warmers, we are literally talking.
You got a few.
I got a few. There was even one point for Christmas one year where I ended up getting a package from Fred. He had bought a few more. And I have, no kidding, they took parts from the Grinch Who Stole Before Christmas movie line with Jim Carrey. They took the sled, took the little Cindy Lou Who, popped her head off, put a Ponda Baba head on it. They made a Santa Claus with Ponda Baba. They made all the reindeer with Ponda Baba and sent it to me. And it's one of my Christmas decorations every year. So I have Ponda coming out of every literal orifice on my body. You need a Ponda? I got a Ponda.
That's a pretty insane way to get a ton of Pegwarmers off the shelf.
I don't mind because it's a story, and I have an army of Pondas. Literally an army of Pondas.
Now, do you display these guys, or do they live in a Tupperware box?
They live in a Tupperware box for the most part. Every so often, they'll come out for a little bit of fun, whether it be something on my show or whatnot, or something a little crazy or a fun picture or anything.
Right.
Sometimes at Christmas, 1 or 2, 5, 10 might show up on the Christmas tree randomly just for fun, and then they come down. But absolutely.
Nice.
You got to have fun with these.
All right, so that kind of segues us into our main topic today, which is storage/display of your toy collection.
Yeah.
Mike and I both have pretty impressive collections. I have no idea who has a bigger collection. I think Mike has more stuff in storage and I have more stuff on display.
Absolutely.
But we both have pretty enormous collections.
Yeah.
So for me, what I display isn't necessarily what I actually isn't actually my favorite toys. Mm-hmm. Like G.I. Joe is my all-time favorite toy line. And I have a lot of, like, the big play sets out, but the actual figures, I keep most of them away because it's so hard to keep track of all the accessories with them unless I have them all kind of stored with them.
Agreed. You got to have them with their pieces no matter what.
Right. So I have most of my Joes actually in little hardware bins. You can get, like, these Rubbermaid trays that have compartments, and each guy is in his own compartment with his stuff. Some of them are just bagged because I don't have enough of those hardware trays for the entire run of 500 figures.
Right.
And then I have doubles of some of the characters, which those guys are on display. And it's bad because I'm tempted to get, like, doubles of all of the guys from, like, the key years.
So that would be like a couple thousand figures at that point.
And then that just gets silly. But I hate displaying I hate having the guys on a shelf, and then a couple extra accessories are in a bin. And then I want the guy for some reason. I'm like, I have his accessories here. Where did I put him? And then I'm like looking around on vehicles and play sets like, oh yeah, Snake Eyes is over there with the mobile command center or whatever.
Well, if you have friends over too, they're moving stuff around on you at some point.
Somebody's moving something for sure.
I've never done that.
No, Mike has never come and moved things around.
No, I think I know a couple people who may have.
Nick.
I didn't mention it. It was him. So
I do have all my Kenner Star Wars guys on display.
Yeah.
And so a friend of mine's father, who is really into high-end electronics and has been my entire life, like his dad had 200 Laserdiscs in the 80s. Like when
beautiful.
When DVDs came out, people were like, they have commentary tracks, and I was like, so do Laserdiscs. Like, I've been watching this for years, bonus features and stuff. So anyway, he had this enormous console big screen TV that he spent a ton of money on, and when he replaced it, when he went flat screen, he was like, you got to take this TV. And I was like, what do I want that TV for? He's like, I spent a lot of money on it, and I don't want to see it in a landfill. And I'm like, but it's like, I have a better TV than that. He says, you should gut it and use it as a display case for your toys. And that's what my Kenner Star Wars guys are in. I took the screen out and put shelves on the inside. It's a giant thing. It says Sony on the front. It's got the speakers on the side.
Oh my gosh.
It's a giant TV. It's an enormous TV. And so my Star Wars guys are on the big screen in my toy room.
Literally, they're on screen.
Yeah.
That's pretty dang cool.
So that's how I display my Kenner Star Wars guys, and I have a complete run of those. I don't have all their accessories,
right?
But I have all the figures, and I have them on shelf by movie.
Okay.
So like even the Power of the Force guys from the tail end where they just did kind of random figures, they're on the correct movie shelf.
Okay.
And I sort of have it in timeline order of the movie. So like when you look at the shelf, like the Imperial stuff's at the end because you don't get to the Death Star till the second part of the movie. And so like Hoth stuff is separate from Dagobah on my Empire shelf and things like that. So it's sort of a scene going on.
I got to look at that next time I'm over. That is cool, actually. Yeah. That is really cool. I got to, for me, I don't have a lot of room because I'm in an apartment at the moment, but what I primarily have on display is my Transformers. And right now it's a lot of the newer stuff, Transformers Earthrise, War for Cybertron, the Unicron that we were talking about before. Right. And then a lot of it in the living room that's on display is actually Strawberry Shortcake.
I was going to say, your wife's collection is also on display quite a bit in your house.
Yeah, she got the front living room, so... So, but I have to admit, it's a really great collection that she has with the original Strawberry Shortcake, and there's variations on the hands and everything. She has a couple glass cases, but then also the actual dollhouse on top of a shelf set. It looks really cool. And then a lot of just unique pieces like the record book that you got here for our pieces that are now from France that are based on the original doll line, but they're made of characters that they didn't make in the original toy line, but they're new. They're being made now.
Right.
You've seen some of the retro ones in Targets. It's that line, but made in France.
Retro characters that were never produced.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is a really cool idea.
Yeah, so it's just something like that, and those are on display.
Do you still have your flag on display?
The flag is not on display right now, sadly. It made way for the Strawberry Shortcakes.
Gotcha.
Now, could the Strawberry Shortcakes have manned the flag? Possibly, but they can't fit in a Sky Striker, so flag had to go. So,
gotcha.
Now in the collection / computer room where I work and whatnot too, that's where the Transformers are. But I also have behind me a lot of my DVD sets that I bought over the years, and even a little bit of G.I. Joe behind me, and a lot of posters and things like that. And in our hallway, I actually have a couple of the posters from 3D Joes.
Yeah.
Because I love the artwork. I love their one poster that had all of the Joes from up to 1989 on there. With their 360 look on them, and then some of the card back ones from 86 to 87.
Okay.
And then I have the one with file cards from like 1983 to 85 on there too. I just love the look of that. And then my other thing I kind of collect and have on display are a lot of the autographs and signatures of people I've met at different conventions. Everybody from Sergeant Slaughter to the voice actors for G.I. Joe to some Power Rangers. I even met Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
Nice.
So like I have a specially signed autograph from him. I can't really talk about. That's really R-rated. That's in an upper right corner where nobody can see it except for myself. And then even a couple of horror icons that I've met over the years too, because I'm a big horror fan. So those are on display because I like to see that, and that's just cool. I even have Ralph Macchio's signature. Come on, Cobra Kai. And at some point soon in the next couple months, I think William Zabka is going to be in the area. So I got to meet him.
You got to meet him.
I got to get him and put those two side by side. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, I don't have as much on display, but I do have a lot in storage.
Yes. So Mike has a ton of stuff in storage. Mike has a storage problem. Mike is the person you want to not pay his storage bill, and you get his stuff on Storage Wars.
Oh, God. Yeah, my stuff is very organized. So I will tell what it is. I will not tell where it is, however, but I will tell what it is. So there was a point, I've been having storage for, since 2005, I think.
Okay.
I've had storage since then.
Long time.
Yeah, so quite a while, over 15 years. But it's temperature controlled, and the first storage unit I got was 10 by 5 by 15. And inside, it's, a few big boxes, but primarily everything's sorted into bins that you can see. You can buy them at Target usually. 15-quart bins or 66-quart bins. The 15-quart bins are 4 of those equal a 66-quart bin stacked up and whatnot. So in that one, I was like, okay, that's good. And that was good for like 3 years. And then I ended up getting a 10 by 15 by 10 storage unit. And in that unit...
And you transferred this stuff to the new one, or is this an addition?
No, I transferred initially to this bigger one. That was after 2005. No, that was 2008 or so. I transferred into this new bigger one. I had a lot of space. I'm like, I can walk around. By 2012, it had over 600 bins in it. And when I say 600 bins, I'm talking about 300 or so of the 66-quart ones and about 400 of those 15-quart ones, plus boxes, plus maybe a little bit of furniture, but not big furniture or anything, all in this, and you cannot walk into it. It now even has fixtures from different stores and whatnot I've picked up from selling at shows and things. And there was a point where Tony had seen it, our friend Tony from RetroCon, and I said, guys, you want to see this? You want to go hang out? You guys were asking about it. So it's Tony from RetroCon, Nick and Kevin here, and they're like, we want to see it. So I drive them over, and they look at this one storage unit, and they just go, Nick actually says, you've got a problem. I go, I'm a hoarder, but you just don't see it.
Mike will get ready to sell, like at RetroCon, he'll have a table and he'll pull some stuff out and price it and whatever. And he's always like posting online that in the middle of the night he's gone to his storage unit because he literally has to fill the hallway of the storage unit with the stuff from his storage unit to pull anything out.
Just to get it. Yeah. And in this last year, I had to get another storage unit, 10 by 15 or 10 by 5 by 15, the same old small size, just for overflow. And that one is filled with 300 or 400 bins, mostly the 15-quart ones. And it is a lot of toys.
So what do you do in the bin? Is it carded stuff? Is it loose figures bagged? What are you using for organization?
In the bins themselves, it's primarily box things in the storage unit, or it's toys have been opened, but I kept the boxes. I want to keep the boxes for whatever reason. Like the alternators line from Transformers. That's a perfect example. 8 to 16 of those will fit in one of the bigger bins usually, or anything like that. And they can stay in their box. They could be out of their box, but in the box, I know they're safe. They're in the bin. They're even safer at that point. And these are clear bins, so I don't have to label anything necessarily too. I know exactly what's in the bin by picking it up and looking at it, at least looking at one side and go, okay, this is all Transformers, or this should be all G.I. Joe. Very rarely do I mix anything up. There's a line that I got from BBI of military helicopters for a while, and they came apart easily, but they didn't store well because the boxes were gone. These bins are perfect. I can put them in there with a little bit of peanuts, and they're perfectly safe in there. But they're now loose inside. But I can look at the bin and go, okay, that's what that is. Marvel Legends is a perfect example. I kept the cards from way back when with the comic books. Might be tossing those soon because I just don't need them anymore. But I have those in a bin like that. Now, G.I. Joe, the 25th anniversary toys, I actually have in a couple of large, like, vacuum cleaner boxes. And they're stacked literally just the comic book 2-packs. I've got the G.I. Joe figures in there as well. Maybe some box vehicles. There was the Target exclusive Mobat tank set.
Oh, yeah.
That came with the Mobat. That came with a flight pod and all that. I got 2 of those. One that I opened so I could get the 2 figures that made the original 13
you need
Joes.
short fuse out of there.
You need those. And then I kept one sealed, and it's in one of those boxes, actually, because it's so big it wouldn't fit in the bin.
That's one of the most incredible, like, we're going to take up a ton of shelf space and sell you a diorama in a box.
It was beautiful. That's why I needed 2.
It's really cool.
And it was, $70 or $80 when it first came out. Then they went on clearance. That's when I got the second one.
That's
and I got it for like 30 or 40 bucks. It was not expensive. I'm like, I have to have a second one that I can leave sealed at this point. And that's what I've done. It's one I won't ever part with because it looks great.
It's amazing.
In its packaging. So, and there's even a couple Star Wars diorama ones that actually do fit in those bins that they came out with one time. Target exclusive, Hoth and Endor. And it came with an AT-ST inside it with a speeder bike.
I remember those sets.
And then either Hoth figures or Endor figures. So I've got those as well. So it's quite a bit. There are pictures online, and there's even a video of me going through the storage unit one time where I'm going through and I'm like, yeah, there's a lot. And I was just it's just fun. For me, having that as like a resource I can go back to if I need to research a figure or anything, it's my own personal collection. I'm not having to go online or anything. And a lot of that initial collection was when I worked at KB Toys, Toys R Us, FAO Schwartz. They just kind of all followed me from that point. And then being able to buy figures, not willy-nilly, but traveling a little bit for one of the jobs I used to have. I traveled around the country a little bit too, so I was able to pick up things here and there that you may not see locally. And I was able to be online to get certain exclusives and whatnot when they popped up online and be able to get them and not get like a ton. I'd get one for me. I would not.
The online exclusives has always been difficult for me with my job. I really am not supposed to be like doing personal stuff on the computer while I'm at work. So that's always been really tough.
Right.
So when toy lines do like a subscription thing, like Matty Collector would do that was no problem for me. I would sub in, get everybody. Yep. But if it was like a day of thing, and I know they were trying to encourage people to have that experience of like, oh, it's on the peg, and they would just throw a couple. They occasionally had like a chase figure.
Yeah.
And I just could never get that stuff because I just didn't have the availability. Now with smartphones, it's a little bit easier because you can like
kind of do it.
You can have all your information saved in your phone and like in 2 clicks have the thing bought. You're not like sitting at a computer like trying to do it. That's a little bit easier, but even still, it's a little bit harder with that stuff. But I do like being able to get these amazing different toy lines online now, because the stores have become so disappointing to try and search for stuff at.
Talking about storage or just buying anything, and you can have plenty of storage room in a toy aisle these days. Like there's nothing on the pegs.
Yeah, maybe we could rent space to keep our collections right there on the pegs.
Like seriously, there's you talk about Pegwarmers. When you see a Pegwarmer, it's like the only thing literally on the shelf.
Yeah.
Like He-Man, the new Origins line, there's He-Man, there's Skeletor.
There's a Skeletor back there.
Yeah.
I just bought him today off the peg.
There's plenty of him. So, And there's even now plenty of Battle Cat and sometimes plenty of the regular Panther. So.
Yep. And the Sky Sleds have been on clearance lately.
I know. I actually picked one up. So
I thought about getting a second one, but I didn't. I resisted.
$15.
I know, it's so cheap to have, and you can use it as the bad guy Sky Sled.
Exactly.
So.
Swap out the parts. Yeah, so I might have a few toys in storage. I might have a few toys. We're not going to talk about the 4 storage closets I have at the apartment complex too that have stuff in them as well. And those have anywhere from 15 to 40 bins in each one too. So yeah, I might know a little bit about toys.
So when I bought my house, there's a room in my house that is called the toy room, even though it's kind of silly. Like, we actually had some people over, like people from my girlfriend's family were over, and they were commenting on all this stuff in my living room, dining room area. Yeah. And my girlfriend just kept going, and remember, this is not the toy room. And people were like, what? Anyway, the toy room, I had planned on that being where my G.I. Joes and my Star Wars guys were going to be. And then the G.I. Joe stuff and the Star Wars stuff all got moved in, and it was all packed in storage. And it took me a little while. I was doing a lot of renovating of my house. And by the time I got around to setting up that toy room, I had Blockbuster closed, and I bought a bunch of Blockbuster shelving units.
Yeah.
So I have these white shelves in my toy room that are from Blockbuster. And they were there, and it was like the right place, wrong time, or like a moment of weakness. And I started collecting the vintage Masters of the Universe stuff again, which I had as a kid and sold.
Right.
And I got back into it. I bought like a couple of big lots and was like putting together a collection of that because I had gotten into MOTU Classics at that point. So that stuff all went on those shelves. And then I decided to make a shelf for Ninja Turtles. And I put like every version of the 4 Turtles I owned up there. So every time, not like the variants, but like the original line, and then the 2000 show, and, and the Nicktoons show, and the
main
versions.
4 Turtles, and they're
over
basic,
and over and over again on a shelf. And then I put up a shelf that had like all the Mighty Morphin Rangers, and I was buying a bunch of the Kenner RoboCop guys, and they have a shelf.
Oh, those are beautiful.
And the Kenner Aliens guys have a shelf. And all of a sudden I was like, I never got my G.I. Joe stuff out. Like, that room has all the play sets in it, but I killed all the shelf space with that stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I've never gotten courage to pull the Joes out of their little bins and display them. But I do have a lot of carded Joes hanging in that room.
That I gotta say, I've been to Kevin's house several times, and it is like walking into a museum almost.
Yeah, that's what everybody always says when they come in.
But not a museum where you can't touch anything. That's what I think is. Now, granted, we don't go around again. Nick, you do it, but I don't go in there going, I can move things around, but you can. It looks like a fun house and a fun place to be, and you really are kind of steeped in the nostalgia of the 80s and 90s right there with everything. And it's a pleasure to be in that house.
Yeah, I try and put collections out in the more standard rooms that like people can. They're not going to like knock things over. Like you can't have shelves of action figures in your kitchen. Like it doesn't work. But I have like 80s cake pans.
I love the. I was going to mention that you even have an Alf one.
I don't have the Alf
one.
one.
That's right. I have the Alf one.
I avoid the Alf one because it doesn't have a molded face.
Right.
So a lot of 80s cake pans used to come with a plastic face, so you didn't have to try and ice the face because you always end up getting like a derpy looking superhero on your cake. So they would come with these face plates. But for some weird reason, the Alf cake pan, they didn't even mold the face at all.
It's flat.
It just came with a piece to stick in there. So the cake pan looks really odd, whereas the other ones all have the full face sculpted on. So I have He-Man, I have Boba Fett, I have Optimus Prime, I have 2 different Ninja Turtle ones, I have a Rainbow Bright.
Now, these are all vintage, but there are some that are new, like newish.
The Transformer one, the Optimus Prime one I have is fairly new. It's like a 2000s cake pan.
Right.
But I think all the rest of them are all vintage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started with I wanted a Boba Fett cake pan, but I found a Batman one at the thrift store, and then I bought a General Hawk on eBay.
And it just starts.
And then it's just like, okay, well, now I have a collection of cake pans.
But now the real question is, where's our Boba Fett cake?
Where's the Boba Fett cake?
I got Pondas.
You got Pondas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to bake a Boba Fett cake. I actually found that Boba Fett cake pan at a flea market on Mother's Day.
Oh, wow.
And then when I saw my mom later that day, I was like, hey, could you like clean this cake pan? It's pretty scummy looking. And she's like, sure.
Oh my gosh.
So I appreciate the stuff my mom does for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got to make one at some point. We got to make one for RetroCon.
For RetroCon? Yeah. The Boba Fett cake?
Yeah, I think we do. So, no, your house is beautiful. I didn't realize that about the TV itself. Like I never connected that. That's just so cool.
Yeah, so a lot of the shelving stuff is something weird like that. It's Blockbuster shelves. It's an old TV.
It really is like walking into the 80s, like going into that house. And any kid who walks in there is either like, oh my gosh, or just overwhelmed. One of the two.
Even adults are overwhelmed. Everyone's always like overstimulated by visuals when they walk in my house. Everyone's always like, oh my gosh, there's something everywhere. And I generally paint walls bright colors, but then I cover them up completely with stuff.
Well, they have a bright background.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. I like that.
Yeah, so I have like a collection of Filmation animation cells from He-Man.
Yeah.
In the same room as my MOTU Classics guys. I have a fair amount of original comic book art, mostly from G.I. Joe comics, but some from other things.
Right.
I have a selection of Batman pages upstairs in my house.
There was a Channing Tatum cutout one time, wasn't there?
Yes, I have a Channing Tatum G.I. Joe cardboard cutout and a Boba Fett and Han Solo cardboard cutout.
Yeah, I think I was doing something inappropriate with that Channing Tatum at one point.
There's pictures of me with like paper dust masks hanging around the necks of all the cardboard cutouts, and I'm in like work gloves and stuff. Is when I was renovating the house.
That's awesome.
I was like, here's my demo crew with me. Anything else about storage? What do you do with packaging? Are you keeping packages when you buy a modern toy, like something new? Transformers, you go to Walmart, you get a Transformer.
Yep.
You keep the box, you chug it.
So for me, if I'm going to open something up, nowadays, if it's a box Transformer, box toy or anything, I'm taking a picture of everything. This is one thing I love to do is just for my own purpose as well. If I'm going to review at some point, I take a picture of every toy I buy sealed. Front, back, top, bottom, left, right, no matter what, before I open it. And if it's a box that you don't have a window to or anything, even the inside of what it looks like before I do anything with that. Okay. And then I'll usually toss that unless it's like a specialty thing or anything. If it's a card back toy, like a Star Wars figure, Masters of the Universe figure, anything like that, I'll cut the card bubble off, but I'll typically keep the card back.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of weird about this. There's a lot of work not put into just a toy,
package design,
but into the package design itself and the artwork put on there. So if I have a photo of something sealed, I have the artwork at least preserved. But if it's a card back even, then it's something I can keep easily into a bin or anything like that. And this might even go back to when I was like 4 years old, way back when. I remember vividly at 3-4 years old buying Star Wars figures and cutting out the little Kenner points that you could buy,
right,
but in such a way where straight across, just a circle, so that when you looked at the front, the card art was still there. Now, I wasn't cutting the figures off carefully then, but I was trying to rip them off carefully with the bubble to maintain the picture of the character.
I used to hate it when you would get that one bad tear on a G.I. Joe figure and it would rip all of the art off the cardboard.
I hated that.
I would always try and do as best I could to get the bubble off as cleanly as possible.
It's
weird. They glue them on differently now, though.
Yeah, they just pop off almost. Yeah, that's why there's tape on them now, too.
Yeah.
That's why they have that. So I remember vividly, those Star Wars card backs, I kept them in this brown folder that was like this plastic folder. And I think that's where it kind of stems from for the card backs. And then all like the instructions and everything get usually packaged, either bagged with the toy when I put it in storage or in a bag in a bin that the toy would go into when I rotate my display at some point. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. That way I know where it goes to specifically.
I'm in a phase of not saving any packaging. I went through a phase where I saved a lot of stuff, and I had a closet full of like the white mailer boxes to MOTU Classics figures and stuff. And at one point I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I still have all the card backs from those guys. Basically, for me, it has to have useful information on it.
Right.
If there's a bio, like a G.I. Joe file card, if there's those bios that were on the MOTU Classics, I'll keep that card back. If it's a bunch of disclaimers or just a piece of artwork, like Power Rangers Lightning Collection,
right,
I don't keep the boxes. It's just a photo. It's a great photo,
right,
but like I can find that photo online if I want to see that again.
Exactly.
So I'm very limited on the packaging I'm keeping now. I do keep like vehicle boxes, like that Grayskull box. I'm going to keep that.
We can take the inserts out and flatten them if you really
you can
want to.
Them, or you can just put a ton of other packaging in
exactly.
there. Like I will take a big box from a toy line and put all the card backs into it.
Yep.
And I even did that as a kid. Like I still have my Tiger Force Devilfish box, the Tigerfish. Because that's where I used to keep all the pamphlets and flag points from everything else as a kid.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's why I still have, that's like one of the few like little boxes I still have. I have a couple of the big ones that my parents stuck in the attic when I was a kid. But for the most part, any of the medium or small vehicles, the boxes got chucked. But that one, for some reason, just became like, this is where I stick the pamphlets and all that stuff.
Oh, man. I wish I had a lot of my stuff from when I was a kid. Long story short, there was a point where we ended up moving, and the landlord that we had threw it all away. the day before we moved out, or after we moved out.
I feel like people that moved a lot are, you know, far less likely to still have stuff from their childhood. I always lived in the same place. My parents still live in that house, so I have a ton of stuff in my collection that's from my childhood. There's actually some G.I. Joes in my collection that like aren't really super nice.
Yeah.
But it's like it's my childhood
It's
figure.
your original toy.
And I've been slowly replacing some of those. I actually have a container because I want to do a shadow box at some point that's like
of the original toys.
That was my childhood Sergeant Slaughter.
That's
with
cool.
the floppy joints, and that's my Falcon and whoever else, like some of those key guys that I was really into as a kid.
Yeah, no, I'll never forget his name, Mr. Judice. He's long dead now. Mr. Judice.
The landlord that threw out your stuff.
Star Wars toys. Original Star Wars toys. Anyway.
It's amazing how something like that can even happen. Like,
I know. That's okay, though. You know what? I've let it go.
Maybe that's why you're hoarding so much stuff.
I could be.
Maybe this is something to investigate with a therapist.
We should have a therapist on the show to talk about toys.
Talk about our toy addictions?
Could be. That could be an interesting thing.
Wasn't there a show, Collection Addiction or something like that? There was like a show and Sean Long, the YouTuber, was on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they didn't focus. It wasn't like hoarders, but it also wasn't like toy collecting in general. It was just
a general.
It was a general
obsession
people that were obsessions.
Yeah,
collection obsession or something like that. Yeah, and they did one toy.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
You seem totally fine.
I'm perfectly fine. And this, folks, is your segment of Talking with Breaux.
All right. Well, in the comments, let us know what you guys thought of this. Let us know what you do with your storage and display stuff. Do you have a collection of Ponda Babas? We want to know for sure.
What figure do you have more than 10 of? We really need to know.
That's a good question. Yeah. Which do you army build anybody that's not really an army builder?
Right. Like, there's Cobra Troopers. I've got like 40 of this one, 50 of that one.
That's like totally acceptable.
Right. However, do you have, you know what? I have to say, I have about 50 grunts from the Valor versus Venom line, only because they sold them in a 2-pack with a Viper. So I've got this like army of...
He at least passes for an army builder too.
Exactly.
So,
and there was a reason why. He came with the Viper. So you kind of had to buy him to get the Viper at that point.
I don't have anywhere near this many, but I do have quite a few red Snaggletooths from the vintage Star Wars line.
Okay.
He's kind of become my like, oh yeah, he's in a $5 or less bin, I'm going to buy him kind of figure.
No, this was totally a fluke, and then I ended up like, you know what, I'm just going to clear them out, those last ones, might as well. At 50 cents a piece, I can have a story and have some fun with them at all times, so... Like, I have to remember to tell you one time, too, I said, put him in a tree. I actually did take, like, a Christmas hook and put one in a head. And he's one of my actual Christmas ornaments. So there's always one on the tree every year. So.
Nice.
There we go. And because it has to be done. There we go.
All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week.
Rock on, everybody. Have a great day. And I got to say it. #JustBroIt. Do a good deed today.